Good morning. This is Nancy Bronner and Kyle Reese of the OneJax Institute at the University of North Florida. At OneJax, we're committed to bringing resources into the community as we weather the COVID-19 pandemic together.
So in today's conversation, we're talking to Terri Florio, who is the Executive Director of the MaliVai Washington Youth Foundation. And we're going to talk to Terri about many of the roles that she plays in this life. She's a nonprofit leader, she's a mother, and also she and the MaliVai Washington Foundation work hands-on with Duval County school students that are trying to weather this pandemic. So it's going to be a wonderful conversation. Terri is also one of our 2020 Humanitarian Awards winners. And one of these days, we're going to have a dinner to honor her and the rest of her fellow honorees. But Terri, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Look forward to it.
So let's start. You're a nonprofit leader, as we are in this conversation. Tell us what you're thinking about in these days, and tell us what you're doing as a nonprofit leader.
Well, there's been quite a number of things. First of all, I think we are busier than usual. We have a gazillion, not podcasts, but video calls and Zoom calls. I've become somewhat of a Zoom expert, learning something new every day. But first and foremost, we're concerned for the safety of our kids that we are taking care of from the MaliVai Washington Foundation, as well as our staff. So with COVID-19, we very quickly had to make some decisions, and some were made for us, being in a city park, on what we were going to do and how we were going to operate in this mode. It's been very challenging. I thought it would slow down a little bit, but it's actually been busier than a normal nonprofit environment with everything that's going on and the decisions that have to be made with COVID-19. We also have been applying. We applied for the PPP loan, so that took a tremendous amount of time. And then the business as usual, for lack of a better word, the Kids Hope Alliance grant is due next Wednesday. So that came out right at the start of this. So it's been very busy.
Have you heard back, just to ask, have you heard back from the PPP loan yet, or how's that process been?
Allegedly, it went into my account this morning. I haven't checked yet, but
Okay.
It's been approved. The money was at the bank and it's supposed to be there today. So hopefully that came through, and it was a bit of a challenge. I mean, they asked for so much information, and then the icing on the cake was we had to get every single board member to sign a document. So I spent literally all day yesterday sending it to a board member, getting it back, sending it to another board member, getting it back, so that we finally, by 9:30 this morning, had the last board member to sign and send it off to the bank.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
I know a lot of nonprofits are doing the same thing, and they're also, from what I'm reading and sharing with other nonprofit leaders, they're also trying to imagine the impact on their budget after the pandemic is over, no matter when your budget year starts. For example, ours starts July 1. And a lot of nonprofit leaders are looking ahead to see what the organization might look like. Have you had to, or I don't even know if you've had time during all this to kind of think that through?
I haven't had a lot of time. It's on the top of my mind, certainly. And we have been, we're in a place where we just finished a capital campaign. We have open construction going on right now. So we're not starting a capital campaign or in the middle of a capital campaign. So for that, we're very blessed and very fortunate.
Yeah.
We're also, unlike a lot of nonprofits, we do have an endowment, and it's actually a quasi endowment. So financially, I think we will come out of this okay. We obviously are concerned. We didn't have a fundraising event like many people did in the spring. Our biggest fundraising event is in October each year, just a few weeks after the OneJax dinner will hopefully take place. So we're looking at that, and we're looking at the options of what happens if we, if there's a resurgence and we do have to go virtual as an event, or also looking at how our how our budgets may be affected, even if we have a live event. So that takes up about, I would say probably about 20% of our overall operating budget for the year. So we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. And then we're also, our grants are pretty much, from what we've heard and what we've been told, are pretty much, people are doing the same, and they're actually letting you use a little bit more of it for operating funds as opposed to having to do a specific program.
Okay.
So in that case, I think we're going to be okay. But obviously individual donations and our fundraising event are our biggest concern going forward. And our organization specifically is in a place where we are opening a brand new building and intending on having brand new programs. So for the last year, we've been gearing up with our staff, and we have 2 positions we're ready to bring on, and I would have brought them on at the beginning of April, but we're now like, okay, what do we do? When do we bring them on? You really can't bring somebody on when your full-time staff doesn't have enough work to do to take up the hours.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Lots of challenges, lots of choices.
Yeah, a lot. And speaking of juggling a lot of things, as a parent, you're trying to juggle parenting as well as working from home. So how are you kind of achieving that balance?
Well, I'm a lot older than most parents. Cameron is not my biological child, and I'm old enough to be a grandparent. So having a very active 9-year-old who has to be encouraged to focus on his schoolwork anyway, and he has a phenomenal teacher in 3rd grade, an absolutely phenomenal teacher. So he does the work for her, but doing the work for me is a little bit more of a challenge. Having to learn all online, having to know what we needed to do online, when we needed to do it. The first couple of weeks were rough. Now we're in a routine. We know when he has to be online every morning. We know when his resource classes are. And it's just a matter of getting him to do the work. But I think now that he's figured out that it isn't optional and he doesn't get to play on the computer, or he doesn't get to go play outside until all of his work is done, it's a little bit easier. I have to admit, he's got way more screen time than he normally has. First of all, for his schoolwork, but if I leave him in the room by himself to do his schoolwork and go to my office to do work, he finds other things to do besides his schoolwork. So we are, most of the time we both sit at the kitchen table and do our work together. And then when he's done, I'll go into my my home office and get some work done. But the few things that I've learned are, number one, my mom was a teacher. And at one point I thought I was going to be a teacher, and there is no way I could ever be a teacher. 1, let alone 20, just can't do it. But we've come to a balance, and we're not at each other's throats anymore as we were at the first week. Just say, you've got to do this work. Let your mama do her own work. And now he's a little bit more respectful of space. And then I try and knock off as early as I can to spend some time with him. But we're both ready to see other people.
Right.
Besides the 2 of us and our 3 dogs.
And that's what I hear one of the biggest challenges from parents is just their students are they're getting the educational component, but they're really missing that relational aspect of their peers and what happens on the playground. How is Cam doing with that? And is he reaching out to his friends in other ways?
Well, he's also a member of our after-school program, so I'll talk about that later. We're doing a lot of that. He's done a couple of Zoom calls with some of his friends, but for the most part, his interaction with his friends, I'm letting him play video games with his friends, as long as I know who they are, who he's talking to on on the computer games, who he's playing the games with. He does that, and that's the way they interact in the real world these days. Anyway, they're mostly on their phones, on their tablets, on their computers, and talking to each other that way. As an interaction, I think the kids and the teenagers are way more used to communicating, not necessarily through Zoom, but through a lot of different social media platforms with their friends, and we're all just playing catch up with it.
Yeah, true.
So we don't want to take for granted that everyone who joins our conversation with you, Terri, knows what the MaliVai Washington Foundation does. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll talk about how the students are navigating this time.
Well, what we do in normal times is we run an after-school program and a summer camp. We have about 170, 180 kids in all of our after-school programs. We run an elementary and middle program and a high school program. And in a normal day, we do different things with them, but generally around the same components. We have a academic component where we do homework assistance and tutoring. We have a fitness component where we do tennis and nutrition and other sports, although tennis is our primary sport. And then we have a life skills component which connects with everything. It's a lot of different career exploration, whether we have career days or college tours. For our older kids, we have robotics clubs, we have a cooking club. We partner with a lot of different organizations to provide unique experience for our kids. So that's what we do and then we provide work study programs for our high school students. They can work for us part-time during the after school hours and during the summer, and then they participate in the study portion of it, which is homework and life skills, as well as the fitness. So as I'm sure you can guess, when we went on lockdown on around March 13th, everything we did was geared towards helping our kids in person, being next to them, giving them high fives, playing with them outside, focusing them on their homework, being able to, explain their homework to them in person when there was, when they had challenges with their homework. So now we have switched to a totally virtual reality, and it took us a few weeks to get it right. It took us a few weeks to figure out what worked. The first week we just spent a lot of time communicating with parents. The second week we tried to do Zoom rooms every single day for our kids, and we found out that was too much. So now what we're doing is we have kids online, and we have different classes one day a week. So on Monday, we might have our kindergartners and first graders on. On Tuesday, we have second and third. Wednesday's our fitness day. Thursday is our fourth and fifth graders. And then we go to a social hour on Friday for middle and high schoolers. In addition to that, we have communicated individually with every single one of our parents. We've set up individual tutoring sessions if the parents request it with our part-time staff. Because a lot of their kids' work now, it's all online. So it's a lot of online learning where they go to the self-paced software to do their work, and they can do it whenever they want. But there's a couple of kids that are even struggling with that. And then we're serving as a resource for the school. If they can't reach a parent, we're going through all of our emails for them, all of our emergency contacts to get phone numbers. And then our parents have called us for assistance. I mean, we had one family that in the beginning, we brought a bunch of food to our most vulnerable families, but we had one family who literally had no food whatsoever. So we gathered some food and brought it over there. We have a lot of families that are having trouble with paying the electric bills. So we know that JEA is not cutting off any electricity. So we're referring them to the normal resources first, but we're hoping that with some of our, we did get a COVID-19 grant from one of our donors to help with that assistance and to help with our keeping our staff employed as well. So we're going to use some of that funding or some of our unrestricted funding that if they get to the point where their lights are going to be cut off, we'll at least, help them a little bit through that process. It's not what we do, but these times are not what anybody does. So we're really just trying to be as much of a support, even if it's a little bit outside of our real mission, to help our families as best we can.
Amazing. Terri, so much of this, I mean, all of it actually, of the academic delivery is online. Did you find access problems or kids who needed laptops? How did that work out?
We did. In the very beginning, we provided about 20 tablets to our kids, but we encouraged them to get them through Duval County Schools. their technology program has done, or their technology team has done an amazing job of getting them out, but they're not all working. They're not all set up, and they still haven't gotten all the elementary school kids taken care of. So when we're aware of that, we call the principal at the school that they go to so that they can try and facilitate it with the families. I think almost all of our middle schoolers are online now. A handful of our elementary schoolers are not online, but they can still do packets up through, I think up through today is the last day they can do a packet, and they're supposed to have them all online by next week. But just like anything else, I went out, I thought my son and I were going to be able to share my computer. Well, that didn't last very long. And then I went to Staples and bought just a $400 computer because I have the means to do that. And that computer broke down within the first week, and I had to go back and get another one. So for parents that don't have reliable transportation, or that don't have the ability to sit on hold all day with to wait to get through to Duval County schools, to the technology department, or that don't even know how to do that because moms or dads aren't computer literate, it's really, really been a challenge. So we've tried to help them through that as much as we can.
Wow. Terri, help us understand how many students are in your program, and what is the size of your staff?
Our students, we have about 120 elementary students, K through 5, about 40 or so middle school students, and about 25 high school students right now. And that'll expand once our new facility opens. We just don't have the space for any more right now. But our staff, we have about 10 full-time staff. And that includes our development staff, our office staff, and our program support managers. And then we have another 10 or 12 part-time staff that normally work with the kids in the afternoon. So it's really the part-time staff that we're deploying to work with the kids one-on-one, to run those homework rooms in the afternoons. And they're really not homework rooms, they're more academic enrichment. So with the little ones, they'll read stories. They've been doing some dance. The Cam was in a tennis one where it was a rainy day and he was literally like running in place with his computer on the ground. And that's what they were doing there. So we've got a really good, committed, engaged staff. I think we made the commitment even before we got the PPP that we were going to keep people employed. Kids Hope is still funding as long as we are running some level of program for our kids. So that's been very, very helpful as well. So we've been able to keep all of our staff employed, and our staff has been phenomenal. Even if they're not working as many hours as they're working, the hours that they're working are under stress. And I've popped into some of those rooms and trying to keep kindergarten and first graders online and engaged, as opposed to flipping on their beds and talking to their brothers and sisters and whatnot, has been they've really gone above and beyond to make sure our kids feel loved and feel secure in this time, even if we're not doing as much homework help as we probably would be doing in the normal situation.
Sure. Well, I tell you, it's impressive what you're doing. It's impressive in normal times what you do at the MaliVai Washington Foundation, but what you're doing now, Terri, while trying to manage your own work and home life, these kids are lucky to have you and Mal.
Well, a lot of our kids too, their families work in healthcare, so they're home being, they're nurses assistants or technicians or whatnot, and they're in other essential services jobs, whether it's working in a daycare or a garbage person, or there's gazillions of essential services jobs out there. So a lot of them, their older siblings are watching them. So whatever interaction we can have with them, the parents are extremely supportive. They all now have my cell phone. I hope they lose it when we go back to regular time, because I've had my staff call them from restricted lines, just because of the safety issue of it and whatnot. But they all have my phone, and I get calls, and as long as they're not, at 9 o'clock at night, past 9 o'clock at night, I'm, unless it's an emergency, I'm happy to support them. We do have a mental health counselor that is kind of on call When we go back, ironically, one of the new hires that we have is going to be a mental health counselor. And as much as we needed it before, I think our kids and our families are going to need it even more when we come back to whatever the new normal is.
Yeah.
And as we finish our conversation, Terri, I'm just wondering, look into your crystal ball. How do you think things are going to be different? I mean, is there one thing you can say, okay, before the pandemic, we did this, and now after, I see that we're going to be able to do this in a different way?
I think we'll use a little bit more of Zoom or other online conferencing. We're switching to Microsoft Teams, which is something we probably wouldn't have done before the pandemic. And it's actually a good thing. When we go to the new facility, we're going to be in tighter quarters than we are now in terms of our administrative quarters and our offices. So that, we were talking about it today when some of the staff was in here cleaning out their offices. They, just some really basic things, working with so many kids that we did, but we will do more of. For example, I think we will have hand sanitizer in each classroom going forward. Yeah. We will have staff wiping down everything every single day, not only when they leave, but also when they come in the next day, just to make sure there's a double check. Working with kids and working with the germs that we normally have, we're pretty good about all that, making the kids wash their hands before their snack, making their kids use hand sanitizer when they come in from playing outside. But I think we'll be a lot more vigilant than we were before. And I'm not really sure what else. We're still managing in the day-to-day. Right now, we're trying to figure out, is the camp going to run starting June 1st or June 8th or June 15th? And if it doesn't run, what do we do with our kids during the summer? And we're still in the process of planning if it does run. So we're in a very, very weird situation to have to plan kind of those ways.
Right. Well, we thank you so much for what you're doing for the kids and for our community, Terri. And we are so excited to be able to shine a spotlight on the work that you're doing at the MaliVai Washington Foundation. So thank you very much for sharing with us in what is a very hectic time for you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me, and you all be safe, and we'll see you all hopefully live sometime soon.
That would be wonderful.
Me too. So thanks for being a part of the conversation, and always thanks to our Assistant Director of Operations, JC Wilbach, who makes Nancy and me look good on a regular basis. And any failures of this conversation reside with Nancy and me alone. Terri,
no.
Thank you so much for being a part. And Terri, thanks for everything you do for the community.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.